many of you have risked your lives to attend this event in the past? Well, I am eternally grateful, but I have more gratitude for the sun and good weather and you lending this lovely Saturday to us. So, thank you so much. Let's dig in. We're always just a few minutes late because it's fashionable that way. My name's Johanna Miller. I'm the Energy Program Director at the Vermont Natural Resources Council. I have the pleasure of knowing and working with many of you, and if I don't, then I would like to. So I first just want to say thank you again for coming today. This is our 8th Energy and Climate Action Conference. It's, as many of you have heard me say before, and I say it sincerely, it is absolutely my favorite work day of the year. I love this day because it's all about those of you working hard in your communities, rolling up your sleeves and doing what we all need to be doing far more of, which is focusing in on how we move off of dirty fossil fuels and do our part to combat climate change. So thank you. There are over 250 people here today, town energy committee leaders. Raise your hand if you're on an energy committee. See, I love you. We have legislators and energy providers. We have business leaders and innovators, and this is all about today and in general focusing together on how we transition off of fossil fuels and move to a 21st century clean energy economy. So we have tried really hard to make this day worth the sacrifice of a Saturday. And I did just want to recognize that it's simultaneously, while we are here in this room figuring out what we can do in the state of Vermont, there are the Paris climate talks underway. And they're, world leaders and lots of Vermonters are there focusing in on how we can do our part individually and as states and nations to, turn the crisis of climate change into opportunity and face that moral obligation. So the implications and the results of what they put together will be significant. They will not be sufficient, and that's also one of the reasons that the work that we all in this room and others not here today do together and why that is so important. I did just want to note that early next week, Governor Peter Shumlin and A&R Secretary Deb Markowitz will both be on several panels in the Paris climate talks. And Governor Shumlin is one of 3 governors who will be talking about what their states are doing to transition off of fossil fuels. And I've talked to his team and to Secretary Markowitz as well, and I know for sure that they will be recognizing and celebrating the work of grassroots energy committees and the work and the leadership happening at the local level. So to put it in context, your work will be celebrated and highlighted over there. So thank you. So we have 14 practical and policy-focused workshops today. I hope you've all found your program with all of the essential information in it. I was going to go into why we're here and everything, but we all know why we're here. Let's just get right down to business. But that being said, we do really want to highlight some of the nitty-gritty sort of practical projects and programs that you all can undertake in partnership with many of the experts and resources that are going to be presenting today, but also in partnership with the many co-sponsors who are up in the Maury Room, and I'll talk more about them in just a minute. But as you'll see, the theme of this conference today is a common agenda, and how we can all work together, focus together, and collaborate towards getting to the state's goal of meeting 90% of our energy needs, all energy needs, heating, transportation, and electricity through renewable resources by 2050. No small feat, but it's really important that the state has set that vision and that it's our collective action and the actions of others in this room and beyond that will actually help us achieve it. So, as we all know too, without setting a goal without action is only a dream. So let's get together and make sure that that happens. And beyond the practical programs, there are also real significant policy opportunities. For example, as you will hear today, there is an effort underway, broad coalition of groups working to explore and advance putting a price on carbon in Vermont, because as we know, little to no action will be happening at the national level for a long time. So there's real opportunity and urgency to do what we can individually and as a state. So I want to talk through a few logistics and highlight first and foremost that this conference has been organized, as it always has been, with a group of partners, and these, I want to recognize them and ask them to stand up as well when I call your name. So first of all, UVM Extension, Mary Peabody is upstairs. She's not here, but I want to give a shout out to UVM Extension and Mary in particular for all that they do to make this day possible. So thank her when you see her. And then other partners in VECAN, including Bob Walker of Sustainable Energy Resource Group, which is recently merging with Vital Communities. Brattleboro Climate Protection, Paul Cameron, who might be upstairs. Sarah Simons from Vital Communities. Deb Sachs from Community Climate Action. Lee Cameron from New England Grassroots Environment Fund. And I really do want to give a special shout out to Ben Civiletti, who is my colleague at VNRC and VECAN, for doing so much to put this day together. So kudos to us all, and thank you to this team for making it happen. So I think you all know well that VECAN is a network of well over 100 town energy committees and the partner organizations that I just noted who support them. Part of what we want to hear from you today, and what we are always interested in, is how do we better partner with you at the local level. So some of the things that we want to capture in terms of working with you to strengthen the work that you're doing at the local level, or to potentially help your neighboring community who doesn't have an energy committee start one, we want to understand how we support grassroots leadership in a more coordinated, collaborative, and cohesive way. So to that end, VECAN, which is exploring becoming a broader network, including Vital Communities and Energy Action Network and others, we want to be an umbrella to be a more cohesive, efficient, and effective resource to you all, so that you can, with limited time and resources, we can all be better at what we're doing in terms of our goal. So to that end, and one of the slides I just want to point you to is on page 26 of your program. You'll see later that we're going to have, after the keynote, sort of a synthesis session where we are asking for your feedback in terms of any of the big ideas or opportunities that you might have, either prior to this day that you're bringing into this room, or any epiphanies that you might have had from any of the conversations or the workshops, the keynote, that you will enjoy today, I hope. So I do want to draw your attention to that. And so at the end of the day, we will be asking you to share your best aha moments, and to also sort of note what work you plan to do in the next year. And we hope to sort of work with you and track that and execute those opportunities together. So a couple other logistics before I have the privilege to turn it over to our esteemed Congressman Peter Welch. First, I do just want to spend a little time saying a sincere thank you to all of our many sponsors. They make this day possible by making it affordable for making the registration rate affordable for everyone. They also are a tremendous resource in terms of partners that we can all turn to. So I do encourage you to spend some significant time up in the Lake Maury room where they are for throughout the day. And just to acknowledge too that that's where dessert will be. So enjoy your lunch. It's a largely local lunch. But also do find some tasty desserts and coffee and tea up with our fantastic sponsors. And I did just want to spend a few moments actually recognizing our premier sponsors and saying a couple of words about them. Recognizing first Catamount Solar, who is a solar partner who provides design, installation, and servicing of all types and sizes of grid-tied and off-grid solar systems. And it's Vermont's only worker-owned cooperative solar company. So thank you, Catamount Solar. I also want to recognize Efficiency Vermont, which is Vermont's stellar statewide efficiency utility, as I'm sure you are all aware, and I hope have worked with. They're working with communities and individuals to save energy, and they want to hear from you about how to better meet their energy saving goals. So I hope you will check them out in one of the workshops that they are providing. Encore Redevelopment is a project development company with a focus on 21st century energy solutions for underutilized property and community scale renewable energy systems. And thank you very much to Encore. As well, Green Mountain Power, which is Vermont's forward-looking local electricity utility focused on providing its customers with a balance of the most reliable, affordable, smart, and clean electricity, and their effort to be the best utility in America, and I think they're doing a pretty good job so far. And let's see, sorry. I also want to recognize two more. VSECU is a locally owned, not-for-profit banking alternative for everyone who lives or works in Vermont. Their energy savings program, VGreen, provides financing for your home energy audit improvements or any other renewable savings projects. So please visit VSECU. Everyone else upstairs. And Velco manages the safe, reliable, cost-effective transmission of electric energy throughout Vermont with the goal of providing an optimal system of electric transmission facilities as part of an integrated regional network designed to meet both current and future needs. And also a sincere shout out to our keynote sponsor, All Earth Renewables, is a designer and manufacturer, as many of you know, of All Sun Trackers, a grid connected solar tracker system to harness renewable energy from the sun for your home or business. So we have many fantastic co-sponsors. Thank you again to all of you and to our premier sponsors as well. Thank you. Okay, so after I turn it over to Peter Welch, in 1 minute we will have the 2 concurrent workshop sessions. So I hope you found them all in your programs and you make the hard decision about which ones to attend. Then we will have lunch, and just underscoring again that that's a really important opportunity for you all to network, but also to visit and network with our sponsors. I did want to make a quick shout out that East Montpelier Select Board member Carl Etmeyer would like to get together with other municipal official leaders who are interested in working together on ordinances to ordinances and within the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. So if you're interested, please join Carl for lunch in the card room, which is right off the lobby upstairs. So Carl, once again, raise your hand. This is Carl, so anyone interested in working on ordinances for VLCT. And after that, we have a packed agenda with our inspiring awards and an amazing keynote speaker, and then the synthesis session that I mentioned before in terms of what we hope to garner from you all in terms of feedback for how we move forward on our energy opportunities ahead. So, without further ado, I do want to invite our esteemed Congressman Peter Welch up to the podium to join me.
All right, thank you. Joey, what a great job. It's good to be here. You know, kind of people look at me, and somebody accused me of looking almost healthy and couldn't understand how living in Washington or working there, I could actually look like be upright. It's a bizarre place, as you know, and it's tremendous to be here with people who are actually doing things. Maybe some will rub off. But you know, bizarre. This just a few things. The first thing about this is just last week in Washington. Okay, we voted down on the day of the San Bernardino shootings a bill that would require individuals who are on the terror watch list and can't fly, it would prohibit them from being able to get guns. We voted it down, okay? That's the world I work in. That was a few days after, as a present to President Obama, who's heading off to, was in Paris, where there was convened countries from across the world that represented 95% of the carbon emissions, that we would unravel the EPA regulations on clean air. So that's the world I'm in, and you wonder why it feels good to be home? So it's tough times in Washington, we know that. But what I want to say to you is that I've got to hang in, and so do you. This climate change situation is real. And with all the bad news in Washington, and not just you looking at the sort of factionalism and the gridlock, it really matters that we hang in and we can make some progress. We're making some progress in ethanol. I happen to think that ethanol doesn't work, that it's a net contributor to carbon emissions.
You bet.
And we've been able to get rid of we've been able to get rid of the tax subsidy, which was about $6 billion, 45 cents a gallon that went into the producers. We got rid of the tariff barrier, which is about 54 cents per gallon. And now a number of us, and this is strange bedfellows, I'm working with a lot of conservative Republicans to try to get rid of the mandate itself. I mean, what other product does the government say, first of all, you got a subsidy, second, you got a tariff barrier, and then third, you actually had a mandate requiring you or me to purchase something that we didn't particularly want to buy, namely ethanol-produced gasoline. We came very close. I think if we got out on the floor, we'd win. Presidential politics has something to do with it. But I'm telling you that because even when it's tough, and even when you look at Washington and survey what the mess is, there's opportunities for me there, just as there is for you in your local communities, to find some concrete things that you can do that are going to make a difference in addressing this urgent problem of climate change. All right, we've got to hang in, even when the dialogue gets as difficult and demanding and as discouraging as it is. I'm also here to say that despite what the Republican majority in Congress is doing, and there's some Republicans that are good to work with on a lot of these issues, President Obama is really all in on doing everything that's within the executive authority of the president to do on climate change. These EPA regulations are quite significant. We won a Supreme Court victory there that gave him a tool, and he's using it. There's no hesitancy on the part of the administration to do everything within the power of the administration with the executive authority to do in dealing with the climate change. I also think that the Paris round is going to be very promising. Keep in mind that it's voluntary, but I was talking to the White House director of the whole operation. In Kyoto, there was an effort to make it legally binding, and a lot of the countries pulled back. They were really hesitant because they were fearful of getting locked into something they might not be able to deliver. There's some significant potential by serious analysts who think that where it's voluntary, you're going to see more ambition on the part of a lot of countries making commitments they have a capacity to implement for greater reductions in carbon emissions. And what that could signify is, for the first time, there's a collective awareness. Again, 95% of the carbon emissions are represented there. A collective acknowledgement that this issue of climate change is real and we've got to get going. Even if we don't solve it all at once, we know that won't happen. But that is promising. That is really a very, very good thing. And you're seeing in Congress just a growing awareness that more and more members would prefer not to be remembered by historians 30 or 40 years from now is the most ignorant Congress in the history of the world, where we're passing resolutions that deny climate science. So at a certain point, even the best minds of the 18th century that I work with are going to have to come in to the modern era. So there is progress to be made. But I also want to say whether it's right there for us to grasp is really not the question. If the problem is real, we have to do in our own communities, Norwich or Thetford or Fairleigh or Huntington, as we have to do in Congress, everything that we possibly can to try to make it better. And that's why it's always so reassuring for me to see what this is the 8th conference, and you have, Joey, such a turnout of folks who've been committed to this battle for years and years. That's why it's so reassuring to me to be with you, where folks are understanding that it's within their power in their community to actually do something that makes a difference. Because part of this is cultural, part of it's legislative, part of it, Carl is going to be doing, you're going to be doing
Ordinances.
the what?
Ordinances.
Yeah, the ordinances. Think about it, just a very practical thing. Carl's working on those ordinances, and it helps change the policy. But what we're all doing together, whether it's me fighting uphill battles in Washington, whether it's you writing ordinances in the community, is we're trying to create a new culture about possibility that reflects our awareness that we have to be stewards of this environment, that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to future generations to make this a cleaner, habitable planet. And it's a combination of public policy, through laws, through ordinances, but it's also an ethic that we embrace as a community. And then it creates a culture of cooperation, where everyone from the folks doing the ordinances at the very local level to our largest utilities and our transmission companies find ways to make it work. Because when you go from a carbon-intensive economy to distributed generation and to renewables, there's lots of things, practical things that have to happen in order to be able to accommodate the new type of transmission, in order to accommodate really a new method of payment, in order that we do have the energy that we need. These are practical challenges that have to be addressed. And what I see here, which I don't see with a lot of my colleagues in Congress, is that you're willing to take those challenges on. How do you do it? How do we have a mechanism that allows us to create the payment system that's going to sustain this non-carbon economy? It's not like you just assert it or pass a law. You got to figure out how to do it. But what we're doing in this room is we're saying that's the challenge. We're willing to take it on and work together to accomplish it. What happens too often in Washington is that instead of acknowledging the challenge, climate change, the obvious, that it's a threat, that we have to address it, we pretend it doesn't exist. We deny it. And that's out of fear. It's fear that we won't be able to find the will, we won't have the imagination to find those solutions that are going to get us to the other side. Vermont has a lot to offer this country. When I'm in Washington, my whole goal down there really is to just sort of bring the Vermont way of doing business to Washington. That's all it is. And I'm telling you, there's so many of you right here that could do my job if that's the way you did it. And it rubs off. You know, we've had some significant effect. A lot of the efforts I've made where I find that I can get some common ground and get some help from my Republican colleagues is on energy efficiency. Because what I say is that I'm a Vermonter and I'm kind of cheap. And less is more. So rather than frugal, actually I'm kind of cheap. So, you know, you go to where you can in your community. You know, you're going to face challenges in each of your communities where you've got a sort of political constituency and they just have something that is on their mind. You address it, you meet them, and try to find how you can do it. In Washington, where I find I can meet with some of those folks is on energy efficiency. Because whatever your fuel source, if you use less, you're going to save more. And oh, by the way, incidentally, you're going to cut down on carbon emissions. So that's a good thing. But what I want to encourage you to continue doing is have a focus on the practical steps that you can take in your community and take together that are going to actually reduce carbon emissions. And to understand that it's embracing that practical challenge where we live this life of reforming our carbon economy into a post-carbon economy future. And it's about the two things, the practical changes that have to be made in order to make it possible for some of your neighbors who don't have the time to be here, who might like to be here, but they need your leadership. And it creates that culture where folks who don't even understand why it is they're trying to use less energy are just living in this world, in this environment where there's a lot of peer support for using less. And that creates the political environment where you can create policies that accelerate that whole goal of moving towards substantially reducing our carbon emissions. So I just want to say to you, as somebody coming here from Washington, where it's a tough environment, we all know that. The work you're doing is more important than ever. We've got a tough time in DC, there's no question about it. but we've got to get through it. And while we're struggling to find our way in Washington, you've got to light our way with what you do in your local communities. So thank you for the leadership that you're providing, and I salute you because you're providing the leadership that America needs. Thank you, and I wish you really good luck in this conference. Keep it up.
Thank you, Congressman Welch, and thank you for your leadership. We are behind you. So before I turn you out to the two concurrent workshops, a couple of other brief things, because I just want to underscore that find your way through this lovely rabbit's warren to your workshops safely and on time, if you don't mind. But then enjoy your lunch, and again, do find our wonderful sponsors upstairs with the dessert in the Maury room. But then please do try to promptly be back here at 2 p.m. because we do have a fantastic packed agenda. You will find coffee and tea down here as well at that time. We're going to hear a few remarks from Haley Perro of Senator Sanders' staff, and then we do have the honor of actually having Commissioner Christopher Recchia here to tell us a little bit, give us an early glimpse of the sort of near final comprehensive energy plan. He'll join us briefly, and then again, one of our favorite parts of the day is the VECAN Energy Awards, and right after that we have our fantastic keynote speaker, Richard Heinberg, and then our closing session. So it's a great afternoon. I hope you enjoy the workshops coming up right now. And again, just to underscore what Congressman Welch said so articulately, it's really so important, the work that we all are doing together at the local level, and more so what we can be doing together collectively, hence why you are here, and we're grateful for it. So enjoy the morning, enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you back here together all again at 2 o'clock.